This episode is brought to you by Maestro Sausage. Listen, we got a promotion going on. We made some very exclusive R&D sausage with smoked mozzarella. We're going to be doing a giveaway. More on that later, but also listen to Nick when he talks about a promotion that he's running. I know I just had Marcus from Hella Pie in here, and he tasted the sausage, and he said, yo, this is pretty good. If you can bring it in, get your distributors asking, yo, I want that Maestro sausage. They are going to hit you with some kickbacks. I can't explain it as well as Nick does, but listen in the episode. They're going to give you money, basically, to get their sausage in your purveyor's hands. Instead of them having a sales rep try to sell you these things, they're putting the power in the operator's hand. But listen for the promotion. It is a great way to get their sausage in your hands and money in your pocket. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Koons here, sitting here at Hot Tongue Pizza, bringing you a very special pie to pie. This one with the team and the family of Maestro Sausage and Pontrelli. I'm going to butcher this. Pontrelli Laraccia. Maestro is the sausage company. Definitely more than just a sponsor to this pod. I've been working with Nick, his family, his dad, Dom, and Vito for almost 10 plus years as my purveyor for most of the goods I get here at Hot Tongue. They have been nothing but supportive of my journey, and today they still are supporting me in different ways. They're supporters of this pod. They're supporters of what's going on in Los Angeles. They're a great example of a family-owned company that really cares about the community and the people that they work for and work with. It was a delight. The last conversation I sat down with Vito, Dom, and Nick was, I think, in 2018. They were giving me accounting advice because the family, and you'll hear in the pod, Nick's like a full-on CPA. They're a numbers family. They were generous with their time then, and they were generous with their time when we recorded the pod. It was great. We sat down in their offices, and we kind of just talked about how they took over the company, the sausage company, Vito and Dom, from their father and uncle, and just a family-owned business that started in 1920 that's still going today. There's not a lot of small businesses that last that long, that don't sell off or merge or get acquired. Like this is the same sausage that they were making back then in 1920 at the East Side Deli, which is a very, very historic landmark here and is still here. We talk about succession, retirement. It was basically the season of Succession from HBO in one podcast. They're entrepreneurs and they're small business owners. And, you know, whether it's pizza, hamburgers, or sausage, there's always so much to learn about. I couldn't be happier to have a purveyor or a distributor like them. I hope that everyone knows how important it is if you're, you know, using a family-owned business or you're using a very, very large distributor. These are kind of extensions of your business, and they should be there to help you. And whether you're popping up or you have 7 stores, understanding who you're working with and if they're treating you right and not just trying to sell you shit, and there's transparency there and a real relationship is really important. They did not pay me to say all these things. I truly believe in this family. It was so nice. I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, the people behind Maestro Sausage and Pontrelli Laraccia Distributing, Dom, Vito, and Domenico, a.k.a. Little Nicky. Let's go.
I'm Nick Pontrelli.
Yeah, I'm Dominic Pontrelli.
And I'm Vito Pontrelli.
Are you guys the same age?
Yeah,
Similar?
I'm 70 and he's 67.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
And you guys both worked here as kids?
Yes. As a matter of fact, when I was like 4 years old, my grandmother made me an apron, one of those butcher aprons. And 'cause we had a deli, at Eastside Market. And so cleaning windows, sweeping, and that kind of stuff. So it really got into our blood.
And it was like an enjoyable childhood memory to be like doing those things. I mean, to go all the way through college, I don't know, probably debt wasn't as insane as it is now. But to be drawn back to this place, I mean, is it a similar story for you?
Yeah, you got to understand back then, if you want to spend time with your dad, you went to work with him. Because they worked 6 days a week, am I right?
Yeah, that's true. And we remember my memories are the fun memories. I mean, it's like during Christmas, he would take the whole plant out to breakfast, I mean, and the guys singing Christmas carols. I mean, those are the things that I remember. All the good things. It's different now. I mean, it's so intense. Business, because you have to worry about what you say, what you do, what you eat. But back then it was just like you just be yourself.
And everybody was a character.
Yeah.
The people you bought from, the people you sold, the people you work with. They always had those unusual personalities, that set them off a little bit. And it was fun. It was really fun now. But now everybody's kind of vanilla,
Yeah, like tightened up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's weird. I was just talking to Matt about that, and it's like you kind of like put on a version of yourself. And nowadays, it's like you're a version of yourself online. You're a version of yourself in business. You're a version of yourself with your family.
Yep.
And it's like, at what point where are you at that point?
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you if you're all of those things? And
Yeah.
but it's tough with business and the way things have gone. How has it grown, and how did it grow from like just an East Side deli to where we sit today? And was that always the vision?
No, well, you know what? So you have to understand my dad and my uncle. My uncle had like a 6th grade education. My dad, graduated from high school, but he was so dyslexic. The guy couldn't write a sentence. And they weren't business people. They were sausage men. They were deli men. My dad was in that deli. He could make you one of those rib roasts, out of lamb rib roast. I mean, he was an artist. My uncle, knew recipes. I mean, he was a great sales guy too. He had a lot of baloney that he'd go a mile on, but they were not business people. So the business got to a certain point where that was it. And I was gone. He was doing his own thing, and if we wanted the business to survive, we had to come back, and we had to put new blood into it, and we had to take their old ways and modernize things. I mean, there was just no two ways about it. You needed to get a computer to do billing. You needed to, keep books. I mean, I remember our bookkeeper. One day I was asking her, I was like, what are the sales? Or what did we do last month? She goes, you know what? This is the first time in 30 years no one's ever asked me your sales. No one ever asked me if you were making any money. No one ever asked me gross profit. It's because my dad didn't know that. All he knew was you take something for a dime and you sell it for 12 cents, you made 2 pennies. Yeah, but they didn't look at it. Was different, then, because there were no hidden expenses. There were no, God, for us today, it's just the taxes alone. Mm-hmm. You had a little thing, we were paying $25 for a permit that now costs $675. So you multiply that by 10 cities, it cost you a fortune. And that was the thing. So we were able to bring structure into the business, and that's where it grew. So you can see areas where, you want to go. So, we were taking, and we were delivering 10 pounds of sausage to a deli. Well, you knew you were losing your rear end on that, right? Okay, so hey, you know what? We're going there for that. Let's put in pizza boxes. Let's put in cheese. Let's put in this. Let's put in that. And, that's how it grew. Because the sausage business is a great business, but it's sporadic, so sometimes it's going really well. Sometimes it's not going really well. Right now, we're enjoying a good surge because everybody's going back to the raw products, and going to quality.
And the Dodgers help too.
And the Dodgers, right, and those kind of things. And so it's like both ends of the business kind of lend stability to what we're doing.
Did you guys both have that vision? Like, they've gotten this far, but it's time to change some systems. It's time to change some policy, and then,
Yeah, we did, but the thing is like you take an old Italian guy, and it's really hard to try to change him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And then how do you have that conversation with your fathers? Like, hey, listen, you guys have done great, but we know better.
Right.
Well, ask Nicky, because he wonders why, because we go through the same thing.
Oh yeah, that was going to be my follow up. Like, is this happening now with Nick?
Yeah, and that is, and you know what? That's the problem. The problem is you have to know when to step back. So, that's what I think my dad and my uncle did at one point. He just said, hey, forget this. We're retiring. You guys are here. And it's the same thing with Nick. I think at this point, we feel like he's got the background. He knows what he's doing. And go.
It took 13 years.
Yeah, it only took 13. But that's okay, because, so you're 37.
Yeah, I'll be 38 on Friday or on Sunday.
Yeah. So my dad
Happy early
always
birthday.
said,
Thank
"You're
you.
not worth a shit until you're 30."
See, that's probably, I suppose, are wise words. You know. Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
And look, it's right by your head. There's a letter that the assignment that Nikki sent in was when you were in third grade
Probably.
about how he wanted to grow up and work in a sausage kitchen. There it is.
This is it.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, it was a different time back then too. But
I didn't know your full name is Dominic.
my full name is Domenico.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my great grandpa. His name was Domenico.
Just
He's the one that started. He's the maestro. He's the one that started our company. So in Italian culture, you typically get named after your grandpa. But my grandpa's name was Sam, and his brother was Sam, and so there were already too many Sams. So he decided to skip a generation with me and go with Domenico.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, they call me Nicky. I go by Nick.
So we don't get confused.
yeah.
Right. But yeah, you guys, there were other things too, Uncle George used to mix the spices, right? And you guys were always saying, they'd be inconsistent if you would go to the doctor and get a bad blood test and say, oh, you need to eat less salt, and all of a sudden the sausage had less salt in it. So
Yeah,
it's
'cause
really
it's like putting
you get
himself
these-
into the sausage.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get these customers complaining, and it makes it an easy transition. Sometimes that's what it takes is for somebody else to tell you, hey, like, this isn't right, and you just say, well, let me go back and see why it isn't right. And then when you put the plain facts in front of people, they realize that things got to change.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with my dad and my uncle. They had recipes and they knew how to do stuff, but you get fennel from one part of the world is different from fennel from the other part of the world. You get red pepper today in the oil is different than the red pepper it's going to be in 4 or 5 months. So, rather than buy the bulk spices and then have to rely on my uncle or somebody to make the spices, we went to a lab. We went to a lab so we could source stuff exactly from where we wanted it. The oil contents were always the same. The heat content was the same. And so we have our quality control is excellent and we've had to switch labs here and there because we got let down, but we eat sausage every day. So, there was a
For
situation.
better or for
I
worse.
was gonna say, how's your guys' cholesterol levels?
It's actually
actually
surprisingly good. That's why we can do that.
All right.
Here, I'll tell you a story.
That's clean stuff.
We have a brother that used to work for Pepsi. So he calls me up one day and he goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm barbecuing sausage. He goes, you do that every day? I go, does the guy that the head of Pepsi have a Pepsi every day?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And you have to. We had a situation where, we have, Pizzanista, I don't know if you're familiar, he's one of our customers. We get pizza from him occasionally. We got it one day and I were eating the sausage. It was off. There was something wrong with it. We got into it. We went back. We'd used one case out of a new lot that came. And when we looked at stuff, we realized what happened is the lab substituted a fennel for from a country that we didn't want.
Yeah.
And, we called them in. They wouldn't change it. They couldn't guarantee it. We just picked up, moved, and we went to another spice company. But that's why you got to eat it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quality control. The minute you stop eating it is like probably the minute something goes bad.
Goes bad. That's it.
It's
Right.
that one day.
That's it. And you're sitting there, you're going, "What did they screw it up? Did we screw it up? There's something wrong with the sauce. There's something wrong with the dough." And it comes down to being the fennel wasn't the right fennel that they used. And they couldn't we're always fair. We go back, we just say, "Hey, what happened? You promised me it was always going to be this." And they were like, "Oh yeah, we couldn't get it." So it's like, okay,
Well, let me know at least.
see you,
right?
that's it. See you later.
Yeah.
Well, what was the for you two talking about processes and policies and scaling the business from East Side Deli to where it is today? What was maybe the hardest part of that journey, or the most important part of getting your ducks in a row to have a business like the one you have today?
Well, I think, what you have to do is, when you grow your business, a lot of times you got to cut corners, you know what I mean? And so, so are you worried about profit? Are you worried about the quality of your product? For us, quality of the product was always important. We always wanted to make sure that the product that we're making today is the exact same as my grandfather made, going back so many years. And it's difficult the bigger you get because you have to start buying in mass quantities. You have to rely on your suppliers. You have to rely. And so, what we ended up doing is just looking at stuff, trying to keep as much as we can the way my grandfather and my dad and my uncle did it, and then looking at the new technologies of stuff that are coming in and taking advantage of those kind of things. I mean, you guys saw the stuffer that we have in there.
Yeah.
That stuffer, believe it or not, did you show them the bone removal? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so, my dad and my uncle, when they were still making Italian sausage, you wanted those nerves and you wanted those, that's what made Italian sausage, but not anymore.
Yeah, things change.
People look at it and they go, oh, this is just cheap stuff. Okay, so we keep the same quality of meat. We get another piece of equipment, and now, those nerves and all those other stuff that everybody else has got in their product, it's out. And that's the key thing. The key thing was just trying to keep things the way it is, but taking advantage of new technologies and new services. And I'll tell you something interesting. So about 30 years ago, maybe, it's longer than that now. We've owned it 30 years. So going back maybe like 40, 50 years ago, one of my dad's competitors called him. And he said, hey, Sam, let's have a frank talk here. It's like, I've tried your sausage on the street. And don't you realize that if you're making sausage for your house, you make it one way. But if you're making it to sell it, you make it another way. You can't make money on doing it the way you want for your house. And my dad said, hey, you know what? As long as I'm here and as long as we're making stuff, we're making it the exact same way my dad made it, going back to 1920s. And the interesting thing is that some 20 years later, that same competitor came to us and said, hey, you know what? We give up. Can you make your sausage for us under a private label? And we made their stuff for them. And
that was a nice account.
That was. And what the thing is you have to realize is, okay, we're not in a penny business. I mean, it's like, I'd rather spend, a few bucks extra and make sure that my product is the best that it could be, so that I don't have to worry about, on a Friday night running out the door and somebody calling me that they got some bad sausage. I mean, I want to that's the thing about our product. You either love it or you hate it, but you're going to love it all the time and you're going to hate it all the time because it's the same every day.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
I don't know too many people that hate it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's going to be the same. We're not going to change it. So you can't come to me and say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't like this. Can you make it different? No, this is what we make. This is what my grandfather made. This is what we're going to make.
If we had those sausages side by side, how much different do you think it would taste?
They are identical. The only difference is the grind.
The texture.
The texture of the meat.
Yeah.
Ours is going to be soft. Is going to be, there's no nerves. All the meat pieces that are in there are going to be all the same size. That's the only difference. And, if you go back to Italy, when they made Italian sausage, they didn't put in a grinder. They took a knife and they just cut little pieces, And so, the problem is where in a pig's body can you find something that doesn't have nerves? And they all do.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take the best piece of meat. Oh, well, okay, you can take a pork loin, you can cut that up, but that's going to be the worst sausages in town because it's dry. There's no fat to it. So, we use the picnic shoulder. Yeah. And because that flavor-wise, fat content-wise, everything's perfect. But what do you do with the nerves and the tendons that come up through the leg, And that's why unless you've got the equipment that we have, you can't make a product like we make. Yeah. And that's.
I mean, back the recipes evolved over the years. Like we took MSG out of it. Right. Back in the day when everybody was having a heart attack about that. We still use some like yeast extracts, which are like basically added glutamates to like add that flavor to it. Back in the day, I mean, you guys used to say that they used to throw spleens and stuff in there to give it a redder color and stuff back in the day. But obviously we don't do that anymore. And I mean, and really going way back to like when he was making sausage, I mean, we didn't have fennel seeds in the sausage at the very beginning, right? I imagine that's something that we only started adding because the USDA has certain standards of identity. So when we became a USDA inspected facility, they have standards of identity for Italian sausage that says it has to have fennel seeds in it. So we started adding it at that point. So the recipes evolved over the years. We still make some sausage with very little fennel seeds in it for those traditionalists that like it without it. But there have been, slight tweaks to the recipe over the years, but really it's been more like slight tweaks to how the formulas have been developed so that they are more consistent or that they they have a little bit of a longer shelf life or something along those lines.
Yeah, and we have an all-natural preservative that we use. It's just a spice extract. That
Rosemary extract.
Yeah, that we didn't know anything about back in those days. But what's nice about that is you keep our sausage in the freezer for 3 months and you eat it. It's going to taste like the day we made it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that old meat taste,
So not a lot is happening in the last 30 years or 100 years of you want the product to still taste the same as it did
Exactly.
in 1920.
Yeah.
Hey,
So it's just finding more efficient ways of doing
it
Right,
and
right.
making a better product. I mean, as far as like getting our casings too. I mean, they get casings from wherever. I mean, we spec Danish casings and we don't use anything else because they're absolutely the best. I mean, you gotta understand. Well, now it's not so bad. We're the old guys. So have to remember, my brother and I were the young guys. So we bought this place 35 years ago from my dad. And so all the old timers would come in, and the last thing I wanted to hear was, "Oh, this stuff doesn't taste as good as it did when your dad was here."
Of course.
And so that's why we always made sure that what we got today is exactly what flavor wise, you really can't. The fennel, that is a thing. Where we come from Italy, they don't use fennel. So you get the guys off the boat and they're going, what the hell are you selling me? What is this fennel? And we have to tell them the United States government requires that we put fennel into.
Was that a subsidy, or was like the United States government like trying to do a kickback for somebody? Because like fennel is like, I think Italian sausage and
Yeah, you
I
think
think
of fennel, right?
But you're right. Like in Italy, I've never talked to an Italian that's like, yeah, you must put fennel.
Right.
Yeah.
There's got to be fennel in
Yeah,
there.
like
man.
a few specialty salamis from some different regions and stuff have fennel in
Yeah.
them, but not really.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's a very popular spice in the Mediterranean at large, but and Italians use it in like baking and stuff, but they don't use it in Italian sausage so much. I mean, we've definitely fine-tuned the recipe so that, like you said, we get the right fennel. I mean, that's really going to be, like the way I like to say it is like an Italian sausage should be better than the sum of its parts, right? You put it all together and it, you're not like taking a bite and you're like, oh, wow, I love the fennel. Like, no, you should, the whole thing should taste good, so we've done good in integrating it into the recipe, but and it's good. I enjoy it now. I probably like our hot Italian the best, but our sweet Italian, the one that we make without the fennel seeds, is probably my second favorite. So you work with what you have to do.
Why when I cook other sausages, is it like fucking super greasy? Like there's so much oil content that comes out of the sausage, but when I bake yours at the same temperature, it's like it just seems much cleaner and there's less oil.
Well, USDA has standards of identity for the amount of fat you're allowed to add to Italian sausage too. So Italian sausage can't be more than 35% fat. But ours is, on the high end, closer to 30 when you and that's
28%, right around there.
28% in the links, 30 for the bulk. When we're adding a little bit extra fat into the bulk, like intentionally to make it a little bit fattier. But I mean, when they're grinding it a little bit extra, or some of that comes down to the spices too. You're using spice oils instead of dry spice blends.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff adds stuff that'll grease out. And a lot of times, especially on a pizza, the stuff that some people get confused when they think that all the grease is coming from the sausage, but really it's coming from the cheese itself. If you're especially using a whole milk mozzarella, it's going to pool that cheese on top of the pizza, and then the sausage, the pepperoni might discolor that cheese, and so they think that, or the grease coming off the cheese, so they think it's coming from the sausage.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at some of the sausages they sell at like Restaurant Depot, and it's got this red color to it, this orangey color. And that's all coming from, using spice oils instead of using dry spice blends, which is what we do. They use, oleo resins of paprika, which we add like a little tiny bit into our stuff just to spread it out a little bit more, because we don't use that much paprika in our recipe. But when you're using primarily spice oils, it's kind of got a weird chemically taste, and that's when it can grease out. So,
yeah, and I mean, one of the things that you're forgetting about too is the fact that you notice we have that inline grinder that grinds right into the horn. Okay, so when you process sausage, what ends up happening is you put it into a mixer or grinder and it just mashes the meat all to death and breaks the tissue. So when you go to cook it, what's going to hold the moisture, the water, and the fat in? Nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
So what we do is, we grind it. That last grind goes right into that casing so that, you've got nice square chopped pieces of meat and it's not mush.
Yeah.
And we had a guy, the only disadvantage about that is you're going to see big pieces of meat and you're going to see big pieces of fat because we don't hide it by grinding it to death. We had a guy that we were selling up in Portland, I think it was. And the guy had been buying for us for, I don't know, 5-6 years. So one day he calls and he goes, I'm looking at this stuff and there's big pieces of fat in it. There's always big pieces of fat in it. That's, we don't mash our stuff to death. And he stopped buying because, I want my customers seeing big pieces of fat. It's like, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you have to worry about too is, if you use anything else besides a picnic and a butt, the texture of the meat's different. So, you use trimmings or you use anything else, that stuff's mush.
And they're trimmings from all over the pig, so you don't know where it's coming from. It's
yeah,
not just all
that's
back
the
fat.
jokes
It's
about like hot dogs and stuff.
That's it. That's
right.
where did
Yeah,
it come
it's
from?
coming
Did it come from the
from
belly? Did
everywhere.
it come from the picnic? Did it come from the leg?
Right.
Leg meat is good, for ham, but it's horrible for sausage. And it's we used to, at one other point, we used to spec what was
Jaws.
Jaws, yeah, because that's nice firm meat with a beautiful flavor to it, but you can't buy them anymore. You can't buy. That's why we used to get really lean butts and then mix it with jaws to get the right fat content. But you can't buy those jaws anywhere. They're making bacon out of them, or they're making the guanciale and that kind of
Well,
thing.
the price wise, before they were cheap, now they're super expensive because they're a delicacy.
Okay.
Yeah, I see, and that's the key. The key thing is we have to keep we want the quality, but it's got to be within a reasonable price. When I can't charge $10 a pound for sausage, no one's going to buy it. So what I can tell you is we make the best product for the money anywhere. And I stand behind it. No matter.
I mean,
where we go.
you're using pig cheeks and sausage. I mean, how much better are you really going to get? You're using Berkshire pork or whatever, all these Duroc things. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not changing the quality very much, if anything.
Yeah,
it's a sausage, it's being ground up. It's one thing if you're making a, like a roast out of it or something where you can really, really dig your teeth into it. But when you're grinding it all up, seasoning it as heavily as we do, I mean, what's the point really?
Yeah, my wife, once she came one day, she goes, "Oh, look, I got Wagyu ground beef." It's like, what good is it? You ground it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were getting a Wagyu steak, I could see that, because that is tender. But it's ground beef. I mean, so what's in it? Meat and fat. I mean, there's no difference between that and cow. It's like, so that's
at that point, you're just being sold the idea of something,
right?
And which a lot of people do. Like, oh, our sausage or our pizza has this thing, and it's like,
no. The funniest thing is, ours is hormone free. Okay, well, you know what? It's not hormone free. Pigs have hormones. So, it's like, that's why it's no added hormones. And there's they don't add hormones to anything. I mean, all the pork that comes out of all the big packing houses is all natural. There's no added hormones in it, and but that's a big,
it's like a marketing tactic.
Yeah, it's a marketing tactic.
Yeah.
Has there been like any uphill battles? We were talking about like regulations, how things have changed, like staying on top of all those things. It's kind of like a full-time job. I mean, I think it's a full-time job, just trying to keep up with the minimum wage in California. But is that ever an issue? Do you have a team for that? Do you get a phone call? Hey, by the way, you got to do this now.
Yeah, we just, one of the things that we believe is that the USDA inspector is our partner. It's like, why be adversarial, right? It's the guy comes in every day or she comes in every day. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to like try to beat each other up. So you just sit and you talk, and they tell you that this is what's got to be done, or these are the new laws, and they let us know in advance.
They have their own office.
They have
That's the people that have their own office.
Right.
Here,
They have their own
USDA,
office in the plant, right? So that's the key. The key thing is like you got to work together.
Yeah.
And they didn't make the laws; they're just enforcing the laws.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I think we got hurt doing, and this is before we moved into this building, we had just gotten the plans. We'd leased the building. And USDA changed the law where you couldn't open your doors to the outside. There had to be a buffer, right? So I can open this door, bring my meat in here, shut this door, open this door, put it in the truck so the flies and stuff couldn't come in. So this is when we were at our old plant. And that's what we had. We had these big doors. You'd put it out on the dock that was open, and we'd have to load it in the truck. So the USDA circuit supervisor came by and we just said, hey, Mr. Graham, how about you cut us a break and not let us have to, build an enclosure here. We're only going to be here another few months. He said, do you want to operate the next few months?
Oh, shit. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that was the only time I think we really got burned on a law that I think for another couple of months would have been unjustified. But so we enclosed it.
I mean, the USDA is reasonable,
Yeah.
and I mean, actually the Trump administration made some big changes to the USDA when they took office back in the day, and specific. I mean, I remember the inspector. The EIAO, what are they called? Like the head inspectors came in and they were like, look, we've basically been instructed that if we shut down a plant, I have to call the head of the USDA personally and explain to them why we're doing it. So, they mandated them to take a more business-friendly approach. So the USDA inspectors were supposed to spend, I forget what percentage of their time, like 10 or 20% of their time, essentially doing consulting work for companies like ours. The issue is that most of them aren't well-versed enough. And, there's so many rules and regulations in the USDA. So it's impossible for them to be an at-will encyclopedia of everything, to be able to give you all the stuff, but they can help you say, okay, you're trying to figure this out. Thanks for having an open, honest, transparent conversation with me. I'm not going to go shut you down because of something weird I heard in that conversation we just had, but why don't you go and think of this way, fix this way, call and write letters to the USDA to try to get your answers in this way and kind of help us through that.
Yeah,
So,
and they have an email. We have an email address, especially, what we're worried about more than anything else are recalls, for undeclared ingredients or,
allergens.
we just email them like, here's what I got, here's what I'm making, am I okay on this? And they'll email us back and say, well, according to this reg, you need to do this, or according to that reg, you need to do that.
Yeah.
So the USDA is good. I mean, they are a federal organization. Some of the state organizations and the local municipalities, those can be a little bit more difficult at times. I mean, just constantly changing things. I mean, everything from wastewater, reporting to we've got to have blue trash cans out there now, even though our trash company sorts the recycling at their plant anyway. We got to have.
Do you have to have emission-free trucks at some point?
We will. Well, the refrigeration units that are on there,
Yeah.
they can't be more than 7 years old. So every 7 years we have to replace them, even though the life on those things is probably 30 years. But because they keep
That
getting,
seems good for the environment.
it's
Just throw them away after 7 years.
They just ship them to Mexico is what they do.
yeah, they ship
Right.
Or
And-
other states. That are legal
Other
in
states, yeah.
yeah.
So you get to sell them.
No,
I mean, it's sort of.
Yeah,
they don't give you
you
any
can't
of
get
that.
it.
Yeah.
We had to replace all our trucks. Anything that was older than 2010. Was it 2010? I don't remember.
know.
Yeah, it had to be that we have a 2012. So in 2010, you had to replace anything older than that for smog emissions, and it'll be again at 20. Right now, the way the law stands, 2035. You're not going to be able to buy any diesel.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see.
And then, and in the meantime,
see.
we have to convert all the refrigeration on the trucks to electric, and so. They don't need to be, plug-in electric. That's what they'll like eventually. They can run on the alternator of the truck. But now all instead of having a separate diesel engine that runs the refrigerant on the trucks while the truck's stopped, now it's running off the alternator. So in order for me to keep the back refrigerated, they have to leave the truck idling. So tell me which makes more sense as far as emissions go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and they're huge expenses. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, you're looking at $150,000 every time you buy a truck. You're looking at $25,000-$30,000 every time you replace one of those refrigeration units. That's the kind of stuff that makes it hard to stay in business.
Yeah, and they're good laws. The problem is they're ahead of the technology.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just spent $18,000 taking a diesel thing out and then putting an electric that runs off the alternator. But by next year, or I think maybe they may already be out, they're going to have fully battery operated ones like cars. So when you shut the truck off, the battery will keep the refrigeration going. But that technology wasn't there, and I had to get rid of a unit, and I had to replace it, and I had to replace it with an inferior thing because that's all that was available.
Well, that's just kind of like running a business 101 right there.
But that's-
It's like the gate thing too. It's just like, well, shit, this is what I have to do.
Right.
Or I just give up.
That's
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but you know, as long as they make everybody do it, you have a
you're okay.
You're
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
fair,
I mean,
you know?
well, it's not. I disagree with that because the bigger the company, the more resources you have to throw at these problems. Like for us, it takes up such a huge amount of our time. Just even remembering to file the paperwork once a year and to do all of these things. I mean, every single month there's always something. You know that it's like, all right, let me tackle this thing this year so I don't have to worry about it next month because next month I've got 3 other things I got to do before the end of the year. You know?
But you know,
So-
when it comes down to it, do you know what makes a successful business today versus a non-successful business? And that is, you know, what we do is we pay all our bills, we buy all our equipment, we do everything. And if there's money left over, then we take it home.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the opposite. The companies that don't do well are the guys who are taking the money home first. And if there's anything left, then they update their stuff.
Reinvest, yeah.
And that's because, you know why? Where does a small company go to buy? You can't get a loan anywhere. You know, if you're a big company, you can do whatever the hell you want. But a small company like ours, I have a cousin, you know, that we invested in a bank that he started 20 years ago. And they just sold it to another branch. And I called him and I said, you know, so we're thinking about maybe moving to another building. What are the chances of getting a loan? He goes, for a company your size, about 0.
Yeah,
So-
depressing, dude.
I mean,
Your size.
this is, you know, it's like this is my own cousin. Your bank won't even, and we'd always do what we can to help you, but that's why you got to save your money because shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean that guy that you see walking around in here, that little screen that's on one of those stuffers,
Yeah.
$4,000 for a screen this big.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that's without the labor. That's just for the screen,
Yeah,
and that's
Not
what
even
makes it
including the freight.
difficult.
Yeah, no, I know. If something breaks, it's always one thing after another too. It
Right.
feels like
Right, you replace one screen and then they didn't install it right and it fries another circuit and then the circuit's making the sausages come out the wrong way, you know, so on and so forth. Yeah.
yeah, and that creates other problems, and that's what it is about fielding problems.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying the skill for a small business person is way more than for the bigger companies because I can't just pick up the phone and say, hey, marketing department, solve this problem. Engineering, solve this problem. We got to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know what it's like, right?
I do. I mean, I do, and I've always done it by myself. I was just going to ask: was it nice that you guys could cry on each other's shoulders
Well,
when
that's-
shit was hitting the fan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a rule. You don't make a decision unless you sleep on it, because you know we'll go back and forth, and you go home and you start thinking, and, oh, this is how we could do it. You know, so the next day you come to work. Okay, now we can make a decision.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's great advice.
That's my concern with Mickey. You know, it's like I know he's more than capable of running the business, but you know, I'm 70, so I mean, how many years have I got left? Am I going to be around 10 years, 15 years from now? You know, who's he going to rely on to just kick things back and forth with? You know, and we were hoping one of his brothers would come down, but that's not going to happen. So,
Nikki
Yeah.
scares them away.
yeah,
You scare them?
No, they're just saying that.
Okay.
My brother in San Francisco would probably have been in the family business, but he moved up there and he doesn't want to move back.
Yeah,
he just likes
that's it for him.
He just likes the Bay Area, you know. And then my other brother, you know, he did his whole
He's in Germany,
biochemical
or
molecular
Switzerland?
engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Switzerland right now, moving to Belgium to open up a research lab. So, you know, that's a little different, right?
Well, we talked about it briefly, but I mean, I'll read this after. But you've always kind of wanted to do this because they said Dom said 13 years it took you to realize you wanted to do this.
No,
'Cause
I've
you're
been
a-
here 13
You
years
have been
now.
here,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're a CPA too.
Yeah. So I mean, I always, I was always inclined to join the business. I mean, you know, back when I was young, you know, they were running the show, and my uncle, you know, or not my uncle, my grandpa was really more retired. You know, he retired. You know, he would have been retired 10 years already. You know, compared to him, and you know So he used to take care of me a lot, you know, especially during the summers and stuff. You know, I didn't have daycare or anything. I would just ride around with my uncle or my grandpa, and he would take me to, you know, East Side Market. And I mean, I remember doing deliveries to Full Yarrows when I was a kid, and you know, all kinds of stuff with him. And you know, I mean, it was cool. We just drive around, and you know, they had the like Frank Sinatra radio station, and you know, go see all the Italian people that you we used to interact with them socially all the time. We used to go to all the Italian American, the Unico parties, the Italian American, what is it, Catholic organization or something, organization parties, and that was the community, and so I always thought that was cool, and I wanted to be a part of it, and yeah, I mean, so throughout the years, my opinion never really changed on that. When I went to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought maybe, something in marketing to help the business or something like, in hindsight, I think it probably would have been cool to get some kind of, degree in agriculture, of some kind, I went to Iowa State University for a couple of their short courses. It would have been a cool experience to go there and do, one of their meat lab courses or, something like that. But I mean, we learned all that on the job. You can learn all that, through consultants and that kind of a thing. So he always told me to go into accounting because it kept me flexible. With an accounting background, you can either do accounting or, then make the jump into operations pretty easily. I didn't really understand it too much at the time, but then when I went to college and I started taking, the accounting seminars and learned how much people made out of graduation, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to stick with this, just based on a salary thing alone. And then when I graduated, I went into public accounting for a few years before eventually joining up here. And it was a good experience overall. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with those accounting years that I had. I mean, they were brutal. They were. I was almost lucky that when I graduated in 2008, there was a financial crisis because I kind of got it easy for the first year. We were slow, compared to what normal busy seasons were. But then the last couple of years, I was the lead accountant on the ground for audit engagements. And I mean, I remember, 6 months of, 60 to 80 hour weeks every week. And, I get a lot of the pizza guys do that pretty much every damn week, and it's physically exhausting. But for me, it's like sitting at a computer and, you get there at 8 o'clock in the morning and you've only got 7 hours with the actual client in the office. So you go and you do interviews and investigations and stuff, all those 7 hours, get all your documentation so that you can work from 5 to midnight on compiling your reports and getting all that stuff done. And, I remember at the end of my last busy season, I was finally driving home and I just like damn near knocked out one of my teeth from just a jaw spasm from just like drinking so much caffeine. And like, I was just like, this is not sustainable,
Yeah.
But it was, it was a really good experience. I mean, you're literally auditing the biggest companies in the world. You're auditing their the design of their operations, the design of their controls, the operating effectiveness of these controls. You're putting together reports. You're learning how to talk to people who don't want to talk to you. And it was overall a good, and you're working with, the people you're working with they made you raise your own bar because they're the best and brightest. They were really, really, really smart people. There was no room for error on anything, so you're doing these reports and like everything's got to be perfect. Everything's got to tie out. Everything's got to, match different statements and be able to be documented so that somebody else can come in and review your work and understand what you're doing. And you have to do that real fast, by tomorrow, So it was a good experience. It really is one of those things that I feel like more people need to do, to have something that just really just baptism by fire, really like show you that you can do hard things and that you can, teaches people attention to detail and how to learn, how to use Excel really well, really fast, and all kinds of things like that. So it was a good experience, but especially during that time, I was like, I can't wait to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So after a few years, it would have been good to make manager at the accounting firm because there's some managerial level background, trainings that they give you. But right before that, they asked me they were saying, it's probably about time you came if you're going to come. We were still bringing my grandpa to work every day. And he was, at that point he had Parkinson's. He was in a wheelchair here. They're bringing him to work. And so they're spending more of their time taking care of him and they needed somebody to do the work. So that's when I kind of joined up. And yeah, it's been a ride, that's for sure. But I did always know that I wanted to join the business. So and that accounting background, it helps. I mean, what am I doing? Like 10 hours of accounting a month, on a big month where I have to do tax reporting and all that kind of stuff. The accounting around here doesn't take very much time. Most of it is done by, Sandra and Lisa and just stuff that's done in normal day-to-day operations. But the background from accounting was valuable for, doing the reporting and all the regulatory stuff, defining our own processes, the paperwork. I mean, we got stacks of paperwork we have to do every day just for food safety stuff to keep on hand for the USDA, auditing those, making sure they're done well, auditing our processes, making sure there's no gaps or anything that can be, people can poke holes into. That stuff's really valuable. So.
Well, having like 2 CPAs in the business. I mean, that's
he never actually got a CPA.
Really?
I never got it.
Fuck yeah.
When I left, I knew that would never be back.
Yeah,
I mean, one official one.
Yeah.
Are you a numbers guy, John?
Well, yeah, that's what I did on the accounting. I mean,
he's better at the computers than I am too.
Yeah,
he's
shoving her over.
he's
Yeah,
good.
but you grew up with, you had to learn how to do it when computers were nothing. When, you had to write your own programs. These guys walk into computers now. And it's
Yeah,
like,
plug
it's
and
done
play.
for me.
Yeah, you just press one button or say,
Right.
hey, AI, check out these numbers. Organize it.
I've been a firm believer that if you want a company to be successful, you've got to have it run by accountants. All the companies that I know of that had salespeople at the head all went out because all the guys worried about is sales. It doesn't matter if you're making any money on it. They figure, well, if I'm selling it, I'm making money. But then when you look down at the bottom, is there?
Yeah.
We had the same guy that I was telling you about that asked us to make a sausage for him. They were making meatballs, so we were making his sausage. They were making meatballs. He was selling them to Costco. So at the end of the year, he tried to figure out, how they did. They were losing 20 cents a pound on every pound of meatballs they sold Costco because somebody didn't figure out the back end, the front end, the cost. And that's why you can't let a sales guy run a business. It's got to be an accountant who can look at it and say, look at what's going on. But then on the other hand, you need the sales guy because the accountant is too conservative. So you need somebody out there to go out and push that kind of stuff too.
Right.
Well, it's like having both of those things. I mean, I'm sure that's tough because I know you guys have struggled with salespeople, haven't you?
Yes, we have.
You would know more than anyone.
He's our early salesman now.
He's a great salesman. Nick is killing it. But to have that accounting background, like I said, I came here, I think in 2018 or 2019, having no fucking idea what I was doing. I was a brand new kind of business owner. And I wasn't even doing cash deposits. And you guys were like, oh no, you definitely need to be doing cash deposits, everything. And you just gave me some very simple advice, and most of the advice was get an accountant because we didn't have one. But and then understanding the difference between an accountant and what a CFO does, though, because I think a lot of pizza people too, they think that they'll get an accountant and that's going to solve their problems, but an accountant really only just organizes your numbers.
Right.
Usually they're not there to tell you where to spend money and how to help in that other way.
Or where to keep your money when it's not put into work.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So there was but then it's how does a pizza owner or a small business owner have the money for all of those things? But then it's when do you take the risk? Because if you don't know what you're doing with that money, there's going to be none left anytime soon.
Exactly.
Right.
And you remember how hard it was to make that.
Yeah. And just getting the initial
Just to
money
lose
was
it,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess that's really the constant circle.
Well, yeah.
What we haven't talked about yet, and I wanted to ask about, was when did the distribution come along?
Well, it kind of grew a little at a time.
Really?
So yeah, in other words, what ended up happening is, my uncle, my dad would actually stay in the supermarket or in the at Eastside Market, and my uncle would load up a truck and go delivering. Well, again, you can't take just sausage. So he started from sausage. Oh, let's add ground beef, because that's kind of right in there. And then, you know what? How about they make sandwiches? Let's take a mortadella. Let's take a cotto salami. And then, look, they're making pizza. Let's take cheese. And then, when we moved into this facility where we had some room.
Or even there was one in between.
Oh, there was one in between, right. It was a 6,000 square foot
right next to where
building.
he's at.
Yeah.
In Hot Town.
Yeah.
Bub and Grandma's bakery now.
Yeah, that's right. So we just, we looked at each other. We said, hey, you know what? We can just fill this bottom up full of stuff, and we started selling pizza boxes. And then we had another lot that was right next door to us that we owned for parking. Took off through all the cars out there, put those storage containers in there, filled them up with dry goods, and that's when we built a business that was good enough to be able to support a building like this. That's when we moved in. And
When did you move into this building?
30 years ago.
Yeah.
It was mid 90s.
June it'll be 31 years. So
Okay.
30 and a half years we've been here.
And are you running out of space, or is this a good space?
Yeah, it was a perfect size for us for what we're going to do. We could grow the distribution business a lot bigger. I mean, they've got 6,000 square foot holes every place around here.
Yeah.
So you keep the stuff in here that you're going to ship every day, and you have your supply in another warehouse. Because the problem is, the state of California, you can't use Freon refrigeration in anything. I mean, so again, the technology is not matching up with the laws.
Yeah.
So if we were to go out and buy another facility, so when we moved in here 30 years ago, we spent $350,000 putting in that refrigeration and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I asked a guy, because we were thinking about maybe moving, we asked a guy, just recently to come in and give us a figure on what he thought it would cost to replace $3 million.
Holy sh! To just replace?
Yeah,
Just
for
for-
something that's not as efficient either.
Right,
So
for
like
something-
that, the problem is it's not that the Freon's bad for the environment. It's what you do with it when you're done with it.
Yeah.
They're worried about storing it afterwards. So the new systems have to be either run off of ammonia or CO2.
CO2,
and they're less efficient. They cost more money to run. So you got to build something that costs more to build, that then costs more money to maintain. And it's not ideal.
Yeah.
So
The good thing is that we're grandfathered in. So if you've got refrigerated Freon space, you can keep it and you can add on. And that's why it's really hard for us at this point. Until the technology, there will be a time when that CO2 and the ammonia will come out to a point where it'll be less money, but it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So
Well, do you ever run into situations where you're trying to sell the sausage, but you're also doing distribution, and so you have to back off of accounts that they're already using your sausage? You don't want to upset
I mean,
them.
everybody's got limitations on their business. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're doing a lot of business with, distributor A, and one of their customers comes to me and says, hey, I hate distributor A, and, I want you to sell me direct. I'm going to be like, well, sorry, I we have a handshake deal. We don't steal business from one another. Pretty much every company's got those guys. Even Cisco now has, their reps aren't supposed to steal business from Greco, and Greco's not supposed to steal from Cisco because they're the same company.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely happens. I mean, for the most part, we've got really good relationships with all, there's only a handful of family-owned distribution companies in Southern California left, and we've got good relationships with all of those guys. I mean, really, it's just a matter of, respect too, that we're all cut from the same cloth. We're not going after each other's business. A couple of them might fight with one another here and there, but, for the most part, we've all got bigger fish to fry now that there are some large private equity-owned players in the space that are coming after everybody's business.
Are we talking about Cisco?
Yeah, I mean, those are your words, not mine.
Because Cisco bought Greco, which was a smaller company, and now Cisco can distribute grande cheese now, right?
right.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
a
yeah,
back end kind of situation.
I mean, it's more than that. I mean, they had there was a buying group, and so all, there's local Italian distribution companies throughout the United States that were all part of this buying group. And when Greco got bought by private equity, they started going after and trying to buy up all these guys because they're all, these guys' generation, they're ready to retire. So they went and they started compiling all this stuff. And the way private equity and venture capitalists value these business, it's all ARR, it's annual recurring revenue. So it's how much we'll pay you a X times your ARR, and that's the value of your company. So they don't care if they're making profit on stuff. They were just going out saying, hey, we're going to take loans out on every asset that we have, take all of that money and now use that money to just bankroll sales reps and just grow, give stuff away at basically just pennies over cost just to grow the sales numbers that they had. And so that's what we saw right before COVID, and they came out and they torched the field, and then took that and turned around and sold it to Cisco within a couple of years.
Crazy.
And they're still growing. They bought a couple distributors over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The distribution landscape it's definitely changed. You just the incentives that they put on their people. And I'm not necessarily just talking about those companies, Greco or anything. All the larger broadline companies. When you compare them to the smaller, family-owned companies, they all have the same incentives, which is to, grow their sales numbers, and then use their leverage to buy, to basically get everything private labeled for them. So they go and they'll get private label tomatoes, private label gloves, private label pepperoni, cheese, flour, everything. And then what they do is they turn around and they hire these sales guys and they tell them, hey, sales guys, not only do you need to get, X amount of revenue per quarter to get your bonus, but 20% of that revenue has to come from private label stuff or else you don't get any bonus. So now they're going out there and they're basically giving stuff away just so that they can make their bonuses on those items.
Yeah, like performance.
Right. Yeah. So, your words, not mine. But there's definitely friction in the marketplace, both on both sides of our business because of stuff like that.
But we don't. We do well, and the reason why is because we have customers like you. We want an owner operator who's concerned about his business, and we want to give you the best products. We want to give you the best pricing. He's our only sales guy. And we're very selective. We won't take on every customer. If they don't meet within that, you're probably the perfect model for all the people, the different customers that we have.
Now, if they can't realize we have extra value,
right?
We don't need them.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I've worked with bigger companies. I've worked with the smaller companies, and I've worked with you guys for almost 9 or 10 years. And you could just feel the difference. I've never felt like I needed to double check my invoice. That kind of shit is really nice as a business owner. It's okay, occasionally I'm like, why the fuck is cheese so high? But then it's very easy to be like, well, it's the fall. Cheese goes up this time and now understanding that. Or Nick does a good job of getting ahead of things. Hey, this might go up. Just a heads up. And to me that's invaluable. So it's also nice just I can sit down, have a conversation with you guys and just feel like we're in business together. Right. You know what I mean? And I try to, a lot of people getting into the business, especially if they've never worked with distributors before, or they were only buying from Restaurant Depot, it's easy to kind of get sucked up in some of these more predatory relationships because they get sold a dream. And then they come and text me and they're going, hey, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you paying $192 for Ezo pepperoni?
Right,
you know what I mean? That's not right. But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's communication is key. Just setting reasonable expectations. Even when people come to me and they say, hey, I want, this certain product, and I'll just be like, hey, I've worked with that manufacturer before and their supply is terrible. I'll go to pick up a pallet and it won't be there. So I'm gonna be short more often than I'm gonna have this product. It's a good product, and I know that you want to use it. I would love to sell it, but the thing is I'm gonna be substituting you with something else every other week. Is that something you really want?
Mm-hmm.
At least being able to let the operator know that you can have these conversations. And as a small company, you know where the problems are because I can talk to them. I can talk to the other people that do our purchasing and just know who's late, who's shorting us, who's giving us the issues, and we can communicate that elsewhere. It's and that ties into our problem with hiring reps for the distribution business. Has always just been because everybody in this industry is a pleaser in one way, shape, or form. They're just the personality type. If you're in the restaurant industry, you're not in this business you're in this business to serve other people. You know what I mean? You're there because you get that, obviously everybody's here to make money, but you're here to try to get somebody, to make people happy while you're doing it. If you were really in the business to make money, you probably wouldn't be into the restaurant industry.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing, trying to make money.
Right. We're here, the distribution business is the same thing. I mean, look at my margins. They're, I'm looking at like 10, 15, 20%, on most of these items. The way we're set up is we want to provide people with really good customer service. We want to make sure that people work with us for 20 years. They have a good relationship with us that's based on trust. I can't be, having conversations, justifying, price increases all the time. Like I need customers to be able to trust me. And I hope that I build that trust up front. And I feel like that goes a long way in the long run. But a lot of it is because, I just pay attention to customer needs. I pay attention to things that are short, and I want to communicate those to people on time so that they know what to expect. It's like, hey, I only have 2 weeks of this left. I've been shorted a million times. You'll need to find something else, or I'll need to find something for you. We have those conversations up front. And that's the problem with a lot of sales reps is, even with us dealing with our vendors, I'm constantly asking people like, hey, I got 3 questions, send it to the rep, and then they'll respond 2 days later and they'll answer like one of the questions wrong, and it's like, well, what the hell, man? I just need to know like the answers to these questions. If I knew the answers to these questions, even if they're not the answers that I like, at least I know how I can move forward and sell your product better. But I can't move forward and sell your product better. I can't even give my customers a reasonable expectation if I don't know what my reasonable expectation is in the first place. The problem with most reps is they don't have that personality type. They're in it to
the information.
Well, I mean, and we as a company are able to provide them with the information.
Right.
It's whether or not they retain that information and give it to their customers. Most big companies, they don't even have that. The sales reps don't have that information in the first place, which is just a product of scaling, right? When these large distribution companies scale to a certain point, then they're also, their performance evaluations are based on how well they communicate with others. Whereas for us, it's like, God damn it, when is that pepperoni coming in so I can tell this guy? I can just walk into the room, and get an answer right away because I need an answer right away, and not have to worry about, their feelings getting hurt because, they're not going anywhere,
Just yell across the office.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We don't need intercom.
Yeah, we don't need intercom.
Well, yeah, I mean, the key thing is just, we just can't find salespeople that have our same philosophy of doing business.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that irritates me the most about in life, so like your bank balance is off and you want to call the bank. And so you dial the phone and you go, hello, this is Bank of America. So how can we help you? You have to tell this guy here in so many words, and then they don't understand you. And then it's like, you can go online to do this. And it's like, by the time they finally get somebody to you, you're so pissed off. All you want to do is go through the phone and strangle somebody, right?
And it's like 15 minutes later.
That's it. And then you get disconnected. You got to start all over again, I mean, here you have a problem. You pick up the phone. Sandra answers it. Lisa answers it. One of us can get on the phone right away. I mean, wouldn't you rather just take care of somebody's problem before they get pissed off than after, down the line?
Seems like an easy philosophy.
See, and that's the problem we have with salespeople. It's like, so-and-so said they called you yesterday. Oh, yeah, I had my phone off. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'll call them back right now. It's too late.
Yeah.
The guy's already pissed off.
Or like
the truck's gone.
Yeah,
We could have put something else on the truck, this morning if we had known by this morning, So we got people here at 5 a.m. Just send us that email. We'll get it situated.
We'll get it out.
Yeah, well, I think that's like the tough part is transparency. And like, at least for me, I hate being sold something. Because then like once you're constantly trying to sell something to me, I never feel like we're actually ever going to have a real conversation. Right. So it's like if a rep comes in, or like I have a few friends like Tony from I think Primo Foods. I've known Tony forever, and like it's a relationship that I have with a rep that he can come in. But like it's hard to get over that transparency where it's like, are we friends, or is this just kind of you trying to make money off of it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like having the best interest for somebody, which is hard to do in business because it's like, I mean, I would treat some customers like, hey, like, if you get a cheese pizza and you just do this with it, it's going to be actually a better thing for your family. Like, you know what I mean? Or like
Yeah,
use this discount or whatever at the cost of my business, because there's a relationship there to protect.
You're not looking for today, you're looking for tomorrow.
Exactly. And it goes to 20
Right.
years relationship, or like that person's kids eat like ordering from my restaurant.
Right.
Hopefully we can fucking make it that long in Los Angeles. But yeah. So it's appreciated. That's what.
Yeah,
that's
these will
like,
be your kids' reps right here.
yeah. That's always the sales pitch. Like, not that I give one, but I'm like, yo, if you're looking for new like distribution, talk to Nick. You know.
When we first started, we used to tell the customers, you don't have to worry about me screwing you. I'm young, you know. Maybe 30, 40 years from now, you have to worry about it because we're going to be getting out of the business.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at now. But now we got new.
Keep it going for Nick.
That's it. There's no exit strategy.
Yeah, Nick looks like he's about 28 too.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's the red hair.
He's got that some red hair.
And we've got the next generation coming up, so we have to make sure.
Do they come by the office?
Well, yeah, Claire does. She comes in, and when she was a little younger, I asked her one day, I just said, so Claire, are you going to be the sausage queen one day? No, Grandpa. And I said, well, what are you going to do? She said, don't you know I want to be a princess? And it's like, well, you could be a sausage princess, you know. So hopefully, I think Emily will come. She'll be your.
She'll be the sales rep.
She'll be
for
the
sure.
sales rep.
Yeah.
Oh, she's already selling things at home?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, you know, she's Miss Personality, you know. So whenever she comes in a room, everybody's smiling. One of those kids. So I mean, Claire too, but Emily's louder.
Nice. What does succession look like, or what do you guys feel about retirement? Is that something you'll even ever do, or are you just gonna?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the problem is if I retire, then I would feel old.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I mean, I'm 70. I come to work every day. I'm healthy. You know, so as long as I can.
We literally rolled my grandpa out of here in a wheelchair.
Sure.
You know, so I'm sure I'll be doing the same thing one of these days.
Yeah, and I mean, my concern is I just want to make sure that we leave everything in a situation where, you know, Nicky can handle it. And what I mean by that is not that he can't handle it. It's just trying to get good people to take our place, you know?
Yeah, of course.
That's the key. You know, we've always had that's been the two of us. So it was like if you take the two of us out, it's him. And so we got to make sure that he's got backup people to make sure that he can get what he wants done. You know, financially, we're a very strong company. But, you know, in today's day and age, you know, that could go the other way really quick.
Yeah.
And it's not a small business person's kind of world, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what they're doing for
It's getting
rents.
harder and harder,
I mean,
too.
yeah, it's getting
Yeah.
harder. That's exactly it. So we just want to make sure he's on the proper footing. And, you know, knock on wood, you know, as long as we're healthy, you know, I think we'll be here.
Not that I want to do anything when I come here, but I just like to come.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's a nice place.
hang out. Has anyone ever tried to buy you guys out?
Well, yeah, I mean, even
Acquire you?
those Grecos, we were part of that Bellissima buying group, and they hounded us to death. But the thing is, you know, we're just not that kind of company. I mean, I want my son to have this. You know, I don't want to. This is not what. You know, I'm not looking to get out. I mean, I kind of like this place.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up using existing management structure for a very brief period of time on every company they took over, and then they just took it over with their own internal people. So if we had sold out, I wouldn't have even had a job, you know. Yeah, because they wanted the sausage business too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so they wanted us to make their sausage also. So yeah, the offer was never really on the table. We never really.
We never
Explored
entertained.
that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
never entertained.
Can we
it.
come by? No.
Yeah, I mean, we get people call all the time for just the sausage business. You know, guys out of state. You know, like, we're a Florida-based guy. We're looking to expand in California. You guys would be perfect. We're like, you don't know anything about us. You know,
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're just saying words to try to get me to open my books. You know, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's always someone to sell to. You know, if you ever really need to, but that's not really on the table for us.
Yeah, hopefully he's selling sausage to customers.
But
That's
yeah,
what you're
that's
selling.
that's what I'm.
Yeah.
That's all I'm focusing
Yeah.
on right now. It's all I got time to focus on anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, dudes, I really appreciate you taking the time, letting me come in here and talk to you guys.
course.
This was probably more fun than the last conversation I had with you guys. And my accounting is still disastrous, but in a better place.
well, that's
good.
good.
But thank you for letting us see the sausage
Yeah,
get made again.
for
And
sure.
Thank you for everything.
For coming in.
Yeah,
Thanks
sure,
for coming
for
in.
sure.
We really appreciate it. Thanks for being a good, loyal customer for all these
Anytime.
years, too.
Oh, we
I'm not
got
going
to
nowhere.
we got to tell the customers about the promo though.
Yeah, you want to?
Yeah. So like, okay, we're at a point where we're trying to grow. You know, like I said, I'm the only sales guy here right now. So we're trying to get our sausage slotted at new distributors, you know, outside of the Southern California area. You know, we do a little bit of distribution in Vegas, but we're not really strong. We don't have anything. We've got maybe one small distributor in Arizona. You know, there's no one in Northern California in the large, you know, any of the distributors up there, even the grande distributors up there don't carry our product. So what I like to offer is, you know, really the way this works is typically a distributor only brings in new products when they have to. And usually they have to because they got a large customer that's a heavy account for them. You know, in the industry, they're called LLOs, large leverage operators. So typically you get your product into a distributor by finding one of their big accounts, you know, having that account fall in love with your product, and then the distributor will bring in your product to keep their customer happy. So what I'm trying to do is say, you know, we've got customers these days that want our product that are outside of our area, but when they go to their distributor, the distributor is going to give them friction. They're going to say, hey, we don't carry it. I don't know anything about these guys. If you're a large guy and you want to try our sausage outside of the Southern California area, you know, or even in Southern California for distributors we're not working with, call me up. And if you like our product and are able to get our sausage through the distributor, then I'll pay you commission on the sale. Not just for, you know, we'll give you some kind of rebate back on everything that you're buying, and I'll give you a rebate back for everything that distributor is selling to everybody else. So I'm not just going to go and sell, you know, let that distributor sell our sausage just to you. I'm going to go and I'm going to invest marketing dollars in that area. You know, we're not huge on social media or anything, but we do a lot of ad spend. We do a lot of marketing spend. There's ways to do that specifically get directly to pizzerias or other accounts in those areas. So if you're you know, it's not going to work if you're selling 5 pounds a week, you know, but if you're a decent account that's using, you know, 100 pounds a week, 50, 100 pounds a week, or you've got 2 or 3 locations, and you want to upgrade your sausage. You know, I was just in San Francisco. Wasn't impressed with anything that I tried up there. You know, I'll send you samples and let's talk, and we'll get that sausage in. And for maybe like a year or so after we get the sausage in, you know, I'll pay you commission on everything that I'm able to sell through that distributor. And, you know, that way it's, instead of hiring sales reps, I pay the people that deserve it. You know, the guys that are getting my foot in the door in the first place.
So there's no distribution in NorCal right now?
No, there's
That's
not.
all we need. All right, Ben from Pizza Supreme Bean. We need Corner Slice. We need Hella Pie.
Yeah.
We need you all.
Yeah.
Pizzalia. Come
Yeah,
get some sausage.
let's spread the good word. So yeah, let me, you know, reach out to me. We'll make you an offer you can't refuse. That's for sure.
All right.
So yeah, man.
All right, you heard it here first, hot off the presses. Get that
Just
money.
for Pie to Pie listeners, you got to mention the podcast. That's it. Only you guys. So yeah, can't do it for everyone, but especially for the Italian sausages. You know, I'm super confident in our product. I mean, anywhere, even at New York. I mean, I went to that John's on Bleecker Street, and I mean, that was one of the best pizzas I've ever had in my life. But the sausage they were using just ruined the pizza. You know, luckily I got it half without sausage, because the half without sausage was the best pizza I ever had. The one with the sausage they were using, it's like you get all these guys from New York.
No, it can't be any better than hot dog.
What do you mean? Oh, well, of course. The pizza.
I don't think he's had a sausage pizza from Hot Tongue since we put meat on.
Yeah, I don't think I have. Yeah,
This guy had to show up like with a blanket with pepperoni and cheese.
Yeah.
We were all
Yeah.
eating. Dude. It was
I
like
put
a
it in my little
drug deal.
sausage
Yeah. I
purse.
was like, all right. I think
Yeah.
we're bringing it. He knew. You guys knew before anyone.
When was the first time you tried our sausage?
December. No, when did I start eating meat? Yeah, like maybe December or January of last year.
Okay, so like less than a year ago.
Yeah, less than a year
Because
ago.
I remember we came in, we were experimenting with making vegan sausages, and you tried it that one time, but that was like not a fair representation.
No. I mean, it's dangerous and it's delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Props to
Just
them.
keep giving those T-shirts out, dude.
That's it. That's it. That's the cheapest form of marketing you could have, right?
It's the best form. It's a pretty
Yeah.
sick shirt though, too.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you so much.